we have around the state 9 clinics. So our clinical centers basically divide up the state, so we each have a catchment area to work with the individuals with autism and their families and providers within that region. We also have a center of gravity, it's called A&R, Administration and Research Unit, which is here at UNC. So UNC is sort of the home base for the whole state, and then we have clinics throughout the state. Here at UNC, through A&R, we also have model programs that we operate, which is sort of our only sort of extended services. Most of our services are very short term. But we do have model programs, as I said, to help us understand and sort of keep in touch with things, develop materials, and provide some services. We use them a lot in training as well. So we have an early intervention program where we provide groups at this point for kids and some in-home services for families. We have a support employment program, which is funded through Voc Rehab, where we provide job development, job coaching for adults. And we have group home environments in Pittsburgh that we operate as well. We also have a couple of specialty consultation clinics. They're here at Carolina. We have a medication consult clinic, and we have a medication evaluation clinic. So for diagnostics that are really complicated, which we're seeing more and more of, with people with lots of disabilities, other psychiatric issues as well. We have a clinic that I think sees people from around the state, as does the medication consult clinic, where they can come here, and we have a psychiatrist and a psychologist and team that meet with them to sort of look at the trickier cases or to do med consults. We don't provide medications, but we can do consultation. And then we do a lot of professional training and consultation at each of the clinics and also through A&R, sort of around the state, and we're involved in research collaborations as well. So that's how the state's divided up. Here we hear about what we do at the clinics fast. This is what we're doing at the Chapel Hill Teach Center. Most of the centers do all this as well. We do provide diagnostic assessments across the age span, so anywhere from age probably a year and a half is as young as we've ever seen somebody. The oldest person I've seen is 60. So that's sort of the range that we've seen. But there's no reason we couldn't see somebody older, although it might be sort of hard teasing some other things out and getting a really good early history. It's harder as you get older. We do parent teaching sessions. Most of our services, as I say, are short term. In the 70s, they were long term. They're only more because we can't, populations too high. But we do sessions with families. We do provide individual counseling for adults and adolescents, usually those who are higher functioning and verbal, and that's also short term. We do provide support in educational groups, a small number of people, for adults and adolescents as well, which may be more ongoing. And for parents, we have moms groups and dads group, and we have workshops and other things that families can come to. We do a lot of consultation, schools, other places, University of North Carolina. And we do lots of workshops. As I said, they range in length. So I'm going to turn to what's autism and what's autism spectrum disorders. And so for some of you, this will be redundant, but ask questions. I definitely want this to be together, and we'll sort of, we can pick up. So as you all know, it's developmental disability. The prevalence has indeed been increasing, and there's lots of debates about why. But way back when I was getting started in all this in the 70s, we said this was a very, very low incidence disorder, maybe, a few kids per 10,000 sort of rarity disorder. The CDC work that came out last year on some epidemiological work that was done rather extensively has a number more like 1 in 150, making it a very common disorder now.
And actually, yeah. I was at a
we do know that the diagnostic criteria have changed. That in DSM-4, the criteria are much broader than they were in DSM-3. And so we know that one thing that's happened is that we've really broadened our understanding of autism. And with our understanding being broadened, there are a lot of people that back in the 70s and 80s, we would have said, this is a very interesting, unusual child, but it's not autism. Now we'll say this is a very interesting, unusual child who has autism, or Asperger's, or one of the other diagnoses. So we're definitely diagnosing a lot of people now that we wouldn't have been diagnosing 10, 20, 30 years ago. We also know that awareness has skyrocketed, and so a lot more kids and adults are being referred who wouldn't have been referred way back when. You know, some of the adults that I've worked with and we've diagnosed were either given an LD diagnosis in school, or they weren't given any diagnosis in school because academically they're okay. They're just one of those weird kids that we all knew. You know, but now we look at them and do a good history and get their information and say, yeah, actually, this is high-functioning autism. We just didn't know it back then. And so I think there's a lot of that going on. So the studies that are coming out of California and Canada, too, there have been some good epidemiological studies that have looked at the rates of diagnosis and primary diagnosis in school systems. We can get some of this data. Look at the number of kids who are being diagnosed with autism and mental retardation. What's happened is that the number of kids or the proportion of kids where MR is the main diagnosis has really decreased, and the proportion of kids where autism is the main diagnosis has increased. So that doesn't necessarily mean there's more kids who have disabilities, but the primary diagnosis they're being given has switched. And the same thing has been found in other studies with LD. Someone is very high functioning, they're very bright, great language skills, they meet criteria as I look at it for autism. I will put in high functioning autism / Asperger's and put them both in to sort of help the families, the schools, whomever, to be part of the autism. And so it's very common to see attention problems in individuals with autism. But for those of us who see a lot of folks with autism, we also see some people whose attention problems are above and beyond what we typically see in autism, and I would say they also have ADHD as well as autism. But a lot of folks with autism have attentional problems, but when you understand what their learning needs, their perceptual issues are, etc., and those things are all met, then their attention looks a lot better.
So how would you, do you treat them as, I guess it's not how you treat them, but so in sort of helping them be successful in an academic environment, what would you do with somebody that,
if I know they have autism, I would be using a lot of visual strategies. I'd be using a lot of organizational strategies. Well, the right steps, you would audio tape lectures and then go back and listen to them 2 or 3 times. And if a professor does have good notes, they're written, and is willing to share them with a student, that's helpful. Obviously, well, you guys know all strategies. Student note taker, so somebody else is doing that is really helpful too. But it's very helpful for the faculty to know that the student's trying really hard, but their auditory processing is bad. And when it looks like they're not paying attention, it's probably because they've gotten lost. So don't hold it against them. He's upset because when he had a class where there was group work, he couldn't participate in it. And he was always embarrassed, always upset.
Online learning would be a really good match.
For some people. Not for everybody, but for some people. Because organizational skills are often hard. So you need to have somebody helping you stay on track with a lot of that organizational stuff. It's not part of the diagnostic criteria, but boy, people with autism have severe organizational problems. So all the strategies you use with your other LD students with organizational problems, make them visual, which they probably already are. They're likely to be needed badly. Theory of mind just has to do with understanding other people's perspectives, typically very poor, understanding what other people might be thinking or feeling. Central coherence has to do with seeing the big picture. So often people with autism have a real spotlight focus. They really understand the details of something and focus in on that, but they may miss other things that are going on totally. So that's hard in learning settings in the social world. They're important things we're learning more and more about early development, what's going on in early development, and the brain research is just blossoming. We're learning lots more about brain stuff. Sort of neural integration is an issue. We can see that now and doing that sort of consultation. That part's pretty easy to do. But in terms of ongoing services, we need to learn what your perceiving needs to be, and I think it will have to evolve experiencing and try to be creative together.
I would say we want to collaborate, and there's great collaboration and research
trust.